I need you to imagine the safest place you've ever been. Not your bedroom, not your mother's arms, not even your own mind at 3 a.m. when the world is finally quiet. I'm talking about a place you pay to be safe. A place where you bring your worst memories, your cruelest thoughts, the versions of yourself you're ashamed to admit exist. A place where you sit across from a stranger and tell them things you've never told your spouse, your parent, your best friend since childhood. A therapist's office. For 3 years, Dr. Helen Voss's office was my sanctuary. Beige walls, soft lighting, the faint smell of lavender that I later learned was a diffuser she bought specifically for anxious patients. The box of tissues always within reach, always full, always silently promising that whatever came out of me would be held, contained, protected. I told her about my father's drinking, about my mother's silence, about the way I learned to become invisible in rooms where anger lived, how I made myself small so no one would have reason to notice me, to want things from me, to hurt me. I told her about Marcus, my husband, how I loved him and feared him in equal measure, how his love felt like sunlight, warm, necessary, but capable of burning if I stayed too long in one place, how his disappointment felt like winter. I told her I was thinking about leaving, not planning, not packing, just thinking, turning the idea over in my mind like a stone, feeling its weight, wondering if I had the strength to throw it. She listened. She nodded. She said, "That's very brave, Clara, to even consider your own needs after so many years of silence." I believed her. I believed that the words I spoke in that room stayed in that room, that the confessional was sacred, that Dr. Helen Voss was bound by oath and ethics and basic human decency to hold my secrets until I was ready to hold them myself. I was wrong. My name is Clara, and this is the story of how I discovered that my sanctuary was a surveillance room, that my healer was a spy, that my husband knew my exit plan before I had even fully formed it, because the woman I paid to help me find my voice was using it to keep me silent. Keep listening. What I'm about to tell you will make you question every private conversation you've ever had, every closed door, every promise of confidentiality. Because I recorded her. And what I heard didn't just destroy my marriage. It revealed a conspiracy so intimate, so calculated, that I still wake up at 3 a.m. wondering if anything in my life was ever real. This is my vow of silence. Broken. I met Marcus Chen at a gallery opening. I was there alone, practicing being visible in public without disappearing into walls. He was there because his firm sponsored the artist, real estate developers collecting culture like tax deductions. He found me staring at a painting I didn't understand, abstract, aggressive, red slashes on white canvas that made me feel seen in a way I couldn't articulate. "You look like you're having a conversation," he said. I wasn't used to being observed. I startled, stuttered something about not understanding art. He smiled, not the performative smiles I was used to from men who wanted things, but something curious, patient. The artist said it's about the violence of being seen when you've spent your life hiding. Does that resonate? I didn't answer, couldn't. He had named something I hadn't known was nameable. We dated for 8 months before I introduced him to my mother. She was polite. Later, on the phone, she said, "He's very attentive. Be careful, Clara. Men who pay that much attention are usually taking inventory." I told her she was cynical, that Marcus was different, that he saw me, really saw me, and wasn't trying to fix or change or collect me. We married at 26. Small ceremony. My mother's backyard, not his family's country club. I insisted. He agreed, though I saw the tension in his jaw when his mother complained about the setting. The first 2 years were good, better than good. Marcus was attentive in ways that felt healing. He remembered my coffee order, my childhood stories, the names of my fears. He noticed when I went quiet and asked gentle questions instead of demanding answers. I thought I had found the exception, the man who saw my damage and didn't want to exploit it. The third year, something shifted. Small things. His questions became sharper, his memory more selective. He would reference conversations I didn't remember having, things I had supposedly said about my mother, my friends, my doubts about our future. "Don't you remember?" he would say, brow furrowed in concern. "You told me last month you felt trapped, that you sometimes wished you'd never married." I had never said that. I had never even thought it. But his certainty was so absolute, his worry so genuine, that I began to doubt myself. Maybe I had said it. Maybe I had forgotten. Maybe my mind was protecting me from my own truth. This is what gaslighting looks like before you have the word for it. Not dramatic denials of reality, but gentle, concerned corrections. Loving reminders of things you never said. Patient explanations that your memory, your perception, your very experience of your own life cannot be trusted. I started keeping a journal, not for poetry or reflection, but for evidence. Dates, times, exact words spoken. Proof that I was not, as Marcus sometimes suggested in his most worried tones, losing my grip on reality. The journal helped, but it also revealed patterns I didn't want to see. Marcus's misrememberings always served the same purpose: to isolate me from others, to make me dependent on his version of truth, to transform my confidence into doubt. I needed help, professional help, someone outside our marriage who could tell me if I was crazy or if he was. That's how I found Dr. Helen Voss. Her website was professional but warm. Specialization in relationship dynamics, trauma recovery, and women's empowerment. A photo that showed kind eyes without trying to look too approachable. The right balance of competence and compassion. My first session, I sat on her couch and cried for 20 minutes without speaking. She didn't interrupt, didn't offer tissues until I reached for them myself, didn't tell me it would be okay, or that I was safe, or any of the platitudes that would have made me leave and never return. When I finally spoke, I told her about the journal, about Marcus's misrememberings, about my fear that I was either losing my mind or married to a man who wanted me to believe I was. She listened without taking notes. This was her method, she explained later. Full presence, no barriers between us. She would remember what mattered. "Clara," she said, when I finally ran out of words, "what you're describing is a form of psychological manipulation. It's subtle, it's effective, and it's not your imagination." I cried again, but differently. Relief, validation, the sensation of being seen by someone who had no stake in my confusion. We met weekly, then twice weekly. I told her everything. The way Marcus monitored my phone for my safety. The way he discouraged my friendships with concerns about their influence. the way his love felt conditional on my compliance, my agreement with his version of our life. She named it emotional abuse, coercive control, the slow erosion of self that happens so gradually you don't notice you're disappearing until you're already gone. You're not crazy, she said every session. You're surviving. And survival sometimes looks like confusion. 6 months in, I told her I was thinking about leaving. Not planning, not packing, just thinking, turning the idea over, feeling its weight. She nodded. That's very brave, Clara, to even consider your own needs after so many years of silence. The same words she would use again, later, when I understood what they really meant. She asked about my financial situation, my support network, my fears about what Marcus might do if I tried to leave. I answered honestly. I had no money of my own. Marcus managed everything. My friends had drifted away, discouraged by his concerns. My mother was aging, fragile, unable to offer more than emotional support. I was, as Dr. Voss noted, in a precarious position. But I was also, she reminded me, stronger than you know. You've survived worse. You'll survive this. And when you're ready, we'll make a plan together. I left that session feeling hopeful for the first time in years, seen, supported, no longer alone with my confusion. I didn't know I had just provided a detailed intelligence report to the enemy. It was a Tuesday. Marcus worked late on Tuesdays. I was making tea when my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. She never texted. She called once a week, same time, same questions about weather and work and whether I was eating enough. The text was a screenshot, a Facebook message from Marcus to my mother. Concerned about Clara's mental state, she's been saying disturbing things about our marriage, mentioning divorce. I think she's having some kind of breakdown. Can you talk to her? I stared at the screen. The words were mine. The phrasing was mine. The fears were mine. But I had never told Marcus I was considering divorce. I had never used that word with him. I had only said it to Dr. Voss, in her office, behind her closed door, in the sacred space where my voice was supposed to be protected. My hands shook. The tea kettle screamed. I turned off the burner but didn't move. Couldn't move. The kitchen felt wrong. The air felt wrong. My own home felt like a set, a stage, a place where I had been performing my life while someone else directed the scene. I called Dr. Voss. Voicemail. I called again. Again. Finally, her receptionist. Dr. Voss is in session. Can she call you back? I said it was an emergency. The receptionist's voice cooled. Dr. Voss doesn't interrupt sessions. She'll call you within 24 hours. I hung up, stared at my mother's screenshot again. The timestamp was from yesterday. Yesterday, while I was at work, Marcus had contacted my mother with information he couldn't have. Information I had sealed in a room with beige walls and lavender scent and promises of safety. Unless the room wasn't sealed, unless the promises were lies, unless Dr. Helen Voss, my healer, my witness, the only person who knew my exit plan, had told him. The thought was impossible, obscene, a violation so profound that my mind rejected it even as evidence mounted. Therapists didn't do this. They couldn't. The ethics, the laws, the basic human decency. But Marcus knew. He knew about the divorce thoughts, the word I had never spoken to him, only to her. The plan I didn't even have yet, only the possibility of one. Someone had told him, and there were only two people in that room. One of them was me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in our living room in the dark and watched the door, waiting for Marcus, dreading him, needing to see his face when I asked him how he knew. He came home at 11 p.m., smelling of wine and something else. Satisfaction, maybe. Victory. He didn't notice me at first, dropped his keys, loosened his tie. Then he saw me. "Clara, why are you sitting in the dark?" I held up my phone, my mother's screenshot, said nothing. His face changed. Not guilt, not surprise. Calculation. The quick shift of someone who had prepared for this moment, who had rehearsed responses for when the surveillance was discovered. "Your mother reached out to me," he said. Too fast, too smooth. "She was worried about you. I was trying to help. You mentioned divorce. I never told you I was considering divorce." A pause, the first crack in his performance. "You did. Last month. You were upset. You said—" "I never said that word to you. I only said it to Dr. Voss." His expression froze. For 1 second, less, something flickered. Recognition. Not of being caught, but of a variable he hadn't calculated. The possibility that I would connect the dots, that I would accuse her, that I would believe myself capable of seeing what was really happening. Then the mask returned. Concern, confusion. The worried husband who only ever wanted to help. "Clara, I think you're confused again. This is exactly what I was afraid of. You're not remembering things correctly. Maybe we should call Dr. Voss together. She can help us sort this out." Call Dr. Voss together. The woman who had betrayed me. The spy in the sanctuary. The person who had taken my vulnerability and weaponized it. He wanted me to call her, to confront her with him present, to give her warning, time to prepare, opportunity to convince me I was paranoid, delusional, confused. I said no. I said I was tired. I said I would talk to Dr. Voss alone in our next session and sort everything out then. He agreed too easily, kissed my forehead, told me he loved me, that he only wanted me to be well. I lay in bed that night, listening to him breathe, and made a decision. I would not confront Dr. Voss. Not yet. Not until I knew, really knew. Until I had proof that my mind, my only remaining sanctuary, was not the source of my confusion. I would record her. The next session, I brought my purse. Large, leather, the one my mother gave me for my birthday, with the broken zipper that never fully closed. Inside, nestled between tissues and lip balm and the wallet Marcus monitored, I placed my phone. Recording app open, battery full, storage cleared, ready. I was shaking when I sat on her couch, shaking when she smiled and asked how I was, shaking when I lied and said I was fine, just tired, work stress, the usual. She believed me, or seemed to. She asked about Marcus, about our weekend, about whether I had given more thought to that idea we discussed. That idea. Leaving. The word we never said aloud in the waiting room. Only in this room, behind this door, in the sacred space that was already violated. I said I was still thinking, still feeling the weight of the stone, not ready to throw it yet. She nodded. "That's wise, Clara. Timing is everything. You need to be sure. You need to be prepared. Marcus, he's not a man who handles rejection well. You know that." I did know that. I had told her that, in this room, in what I thought was confidence. Have you thought more about the financial side, the accounts, the property? I had. I told her I didn't know where to start, that Marcus controlled everything, that I had no access, no records, no proof of what was mine. That's concerning, she said. Very concerning. In my experience, men who control finances this completely are often hiding things, debts, other accounts, other arrangements. Other arrangements. The phrase hung in the air. I didn't understand it then. I would later. She leaned forward, the posture she used for important things, confidential things, the posture that said we were allies, conspirators, women together against the world. Clara, I want you to know, whatever you decide, whenever you decide it, I'm here. I won't let you face this alone. I won't let him hurt you. You have my word. Her word. The word she had already broken. The promise she was making again, knowing she had no intention of keeping it. I smiled, nodded, said thank you. Inside, something was hardening. The part of me that had believed in sanctuary, in safety, in the kindness of strangers paid to hear my pain, that part was closing, sealing off, preparing to survive without trust. I left that session with 47 minutes of recording. I didn't listen to it yet. I was afraid, afraid of what I would hear, afraid of what it would mean, afraid that my last hope, the hope that I was wrong, that Marcus had guessed, that coincidence explained everything, would be destroyed. I waited until Friday. Marcus was traveling. The apartment was empty. I sat in our bed, headphones on, and pressed play. The first 40 minutes were normal, my voice, her voice, the familiar rhythm of our sessions. I heard myself cry, heard her comfort, heard the words that had made me feel seen, validated, less alone. Then I heard the door, her office door, opening while I was still there, while we were still in session. Her voice, sharp. Wait in the kitchen, I'll be done in 10 minutes. A man's voice, muffled but familiar, the cadence, the tone, the way he said, okay, that I had heard 1,000 times in our kitchen, our bedroom, our life. Marcus, my husband, in her apartment while I was in session. The recording continued. I heard her tell me the session was ending early, an emergency. She was so sorry. We would continue Monday. I heard myself agree, confused, gathering my things. I heard the door close behind me, heard her footsteps, heard her say, she's thinking about leaving, gathering information about finances. We need to move faster. And then I heard him, Marcus, clear as if he were sitting beside me. How much does she know? Nothing concrete, suspicions. She's smarter than you said, more careful. Can you slow her down? Keep her confused? That's what you're paying me for. I stopped the recording, took off the headphones, sat in the silence of our bedroom, in the bed we shared, and felt my life rearrange itself into a shape I didn't recognize. My husband was paying my therapist, had been paying her. For how long? Since the beginning? Had our entire marriage, our entire 3 years of therapy been a performance? A managed exit from my own autonomy? I played the recording again and again, listened to the casual exchange of information about my private fears, the negotiation of my confusion like a business deal, the complete absence of surprise or shame in either of their voices. This was normal for them, routine, the management of Clara, the confused wife, the unreliable narrator of her own life. I didn't sleep that night. I planned. I became someone I didn't recognize. Someone who checked phones, searched records, followed patterns. Marcus's phone was fingerprint protected, but his laptop was not. He used the same password for everything, my birthday, irony I didn't appreciate until later. I waited until he showered, logged in, searched. Emails between him and Dr. Voss going back 2 years, before I started therapy. before I even considered needing help. Subject lines: progress update, concerns about Clara's independence, financial management strategies. They had been planning this, not just monitoring me, but shaping me, deciding what I would know, what I would doubt, what I would believe about my own capacity to survive without him. I found payments, monthly transfers from Marcus's business account to a shell company, the same amount every month, labeled consulting fees, the same amount Dr. Voss charged for my sessions. She wasn't just sharing information, she was on retainer, a professional gaslighter hired to manage the difficult wife until Marcus decided what to do with her. I searched deeper, found emails to other women, not affairs. Marcus wasn't interested in sex. I had learned that early. These were other projects, other women he was managing, some with their own therapists, some with legal troubles he was helping with. All of them, in his words, confused and needing guidance. I was not special. I was not loved. I was a project, a difficult acquisition that required professional management. I copied everything: screenshots, email forwards, bank records, the recording of my session. I created a folder, encrypted it, uploaded it to 3 different cloud services. Evidence, proof, the documentation of my own manufactured insanity. Then I searched for Dr. Helen Voss, not her professional website, the real her. Background checks, property records, employment history. Her name wasn't Helen Voss, not originally. It was Helen Chen, Marcus's first wife. The woman he had married at 22, divorced at 25, described to me as a mistake, young love, we grew apart. The woman I had never met, never questioned, never thought to investigate. She had kept his name, built her practice with it, positioned herself as an expert in relationship dynamics after studying, what else, the dynamics of her own failed marriage to a controlling man. And now she was using that expertise, not to help women like me escape men like Marcus, but to help Marcus control women like me. I don't know when they reconciled, whether the therapy practice was always a trap, or whether she became his tool after years of bitterness. It didn't matter. What mattered was that my sanctuary was a family business, that my healer was my husband's ex-wife, that every vulnerability I had shared had traveled directly from her ears to his plans. I sat with this knowledge for 3 days, said nothing, acted normal, went to work, came home, made dinner, accepted Marcus's concerned touches and Dr. Voss's supportive texts. Inside, I was planning, not my escape, my exposure, my justice. The moment when all their management, all their control, all their careful construction of my confusion would collapse under the weight of truth. I would not be silent anymore. I scheduled an emergency session. Dr. Voss's last appointment on a Friday. Marcus was traveling again. Business trip, Chicago, back Sunday. I arrived early, sat in her waiting room with my purse on my lap, my phone recording again. This time openly. This time knowing. She greeted me with her usual warmth, asked what had prompted the emergency. I said I had made a decision about leaving, about the plan we had discussed. Her eyes lit, not with support, with information, the prize she would deliver to Marcus. Tell me everything, she said. I did. I told her I had found a lawyer, secured a bank account, found an apartment. I told her dates, times, details. All false, all bait, all designed to test what Marcus would know when he returned. She took notes, actual notes for the first time, urgent, detailed, the record she would share with him. Then I stopped, reached into my purse, removed not my phone, but a second device, a digital recorder purchased with cash that had been running since I entered the room. I placed it on the table between us. Before we continue, Dr. Voss, or should I say Mrs. Chen, I want to ask you something. How long have you been sharing my sessions with my husband? She froze. The mask slipped, not gradually, but completely. The kind eyes went flat. The supportive posture stiffened into something defensive, calculating, cold. I don't know what you're talking about. I played the recording, the session where Marcus was in her kitchen, the conversation about managing me, slowing me down, what he was paying her for. Her face changed. Not guilt, not shame, anger. The anger of someone who had been caught not in a crime, but in an inconvenience. Where did you get that? From my purse, the same place I got these. I spread the papers, emails, bank records, the marriage certificate showing her previous name, the evidence of their ongoing relationship, professional and otherwise. You're his first wife. You've been sharing my therapy sessions with him for years. You've been paid to keep me confused, dependent, controlled, and I have proof of all of it. She stood, moved toward the door. I didn't stop her. I had what I needed. If you leave this room, I'm going to the licensing board, the police, the news. I have enough to destroy your practice, your reputation, and whatever twisted relationship you have with my husband. She stopped, turned, and for the first time I saw real emotion, fear, not of consequences, but of exposure, of being seen as she really was. What do you want? I smiled, the first genuine smile I had felt in years. I want you to call him, right now, on speaker. Tell him everything I just told you. Tell him I know. Tell him the project is over. She didn't want to, but she did, because I had her. Because for the first time in 3 years, I was the one with power, the one with information, the one controlling the narrative. Marcus answered on the second ring, his voice, concerned husband. Helen, is everything okay? She told him, stumbling at first, then faster, desperate, that I knew, that I had recorded them, that I had proof of everything, the payments, the coordination, her identity. Silence on the line. Then, put her on. I took the phone. Hello, Marcus. Clara, this is a misunderstanding. Helen was trying to help. We were both trying to help. You've been so confused, so... Stop. One word, but it landed. Because I had never said stop before. Never interrupted, never commanded. I am not confused. I have never been confused. You manufactured the confusion, with her help, to control me, and your 3 years of evidence proving it. Clara, please. No, listen. You would sign over half of everything we own. You would move out of our apartment. You would never contact me again except through my attorney. And you're trying to fight me? If you're trying to paint me as crazy over unstable or confused, I will release every recording, every emotion, every your document to the licensing board, the purporting, and your news outlet that you this. You can't. I can. I am. No, Helen of recording this call too, for her own protection. In her, you're yourself. I looked at Dr. Voss. She concerned, pale, trapped in her own web. Welcome to the conversation, Marcus. The working where you're all. He agreed. Not immediately. There were lawyers, negotiations, the slow surrender of a man who had never imagined his controlled world could collapse. But he agreed, because I had him, because Helen, Dr. Voss, turned on him completely, offering testimony, documents, anything to save her own license, because the evidence was overwhelming and public and damning. I didn't just get my divorce. I got my life back. The apartment, financial independence, the right to my own memories, my own perceptions, my own voice. Helen Voss lost her license. The state board investigation found violations of confidentiality, dual relationships, fraudulent billing. She closed her practice, moved out of state. Last I heard, she and Marcus were no longer speaking, each blaming the other for the destruction of their scheme. Marcus faced his own consequences. The other women he had been managing came forward. A pattern emerged. Not criminal exactly. He was careful, always legal, always deniable, but devastating enough. Reputation destruction, social exile. The loss of the control he had valued more than any relationship. I didn't celebrate. Not really. There was too much grief. For the marriage I thought I had. For the trust I had given. For the years I had spent doubting myself when I should have been doubting him. But I did heal. Slowly. With a new therapist, male, older, recommended by a lawyer friend who had vetted him extensively. With my mother, who finally understood why I had disappeared into my marriage, why I had stopped calling, why I had seemed so confused when she tried to reach me. With myself, relearning my own voice, my own judgment, my own capacity to trust, not blindly, not completely, but carefully, incrementally, with evidence. I kept the recordings, not to punish, not to threaten, but to remember, to remind myself that silence is not safety, that trust must be earned, not assumed, that the people who promise to help you find your voice should never be the ones trying to take it away. I used to believe in sanctuary, in safe spaces, in the promise that if I paid enough, risked enough, revealed enough, someone would finally see me and choose to protect me. I know better now. Sanctuary isn't a place. It's not a room with beige walls and lavender scent and tissues within reach. Sanctuary is the voice that tells you when something is wrong, the courage to document your own reality, the willingness to break your own silence when silence becomes surrender. Dr. Helen Voss taught me that, not intentionally, not kindly, but completely. She showed me what happens when you trust the wrong people with your vulnerability. And she showed me what happens when you stop. I am not grateful to her. I am not grateful to Marcus. I do not believe that trauma makes us stronger or that everything happens for a reason. But I believe in consequences, in justice, in the power of a voice that refuses to stay silent, even when silence is safer, easier, expected. My name is Clara. I was a patient, a wife, a project, a managed exit from my own autonomy. I am none of those things now. I am a woman who recorded her own betrayal, who documented her own sanity, who walked out of a trap with evidence in her hands and truth in her voice. And this is my vow of silence, broken. If you're listening, if you've stayed through every word, I need you to hear one thing. Your confusion is not always yours. Your memory is not always wrong. Your voice is not always the problem. Sometimes the people who promise to help you are the ones hurting you. Sometimes the sanctuary is a surveillance room. Sometimes the only way out is to stop being quiet. Record everything. Trust your documentation. And when you're ready, speak. The world needs your voice. Not managed, not controlled, not filtered through someone else's version of your truth. Just yours.